Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to our July Caregiver Solutions. My name is Dana Cameron, Client Services Manager at Vantage Aging. Our topic for this month is avoiding scams, and our speaker today is Kelly Tremaine from the Better Business Bureau. Kelly is the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Better Business Bureau. Kelly has been with the BBB since October of 2021, transitioning from a long career in media. Kelly has an undergraduate degree in communications from the University of Florida and an MBA from the University of Hartford. Prior to joining the BBB, Kelly was the VP of Sales for Gannett and managed sales for all 9 Northeast Ohio media properties. He also worked as a consultant helping other media companies on revenue-generating events and staff training. Kelly enjoys volunteering and being a part of the community. He's a Rotarian as well as works with other nonprofits helping where he can. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a busy few years, but it's been enjoyable. So yeah, today I guess we're going to talk about scams, right? It's a big topic. And unfortunately, I've spent a lot of time. I spent about half my time talking about senior citizens, as well as some other groups about scam awareness, identity theft protection, online safety. And I always like to jump up to this screen because this is not really, it's more of an icebreaker, but technically boneless chicken's 35 cents, right? Although it's true, right? Not really true in terms of it's deceiving. So, and what scams really do is they hinder our trust and they take away a little bit of our trust and the backbone of what we are. Now we have to question things. So scams hinder trust, right? It's a big thing that we do. So a lot of the people that we talk to, obviously these people, especially elderly, they want to trust people. They were born in an era that we left our doors open, right? We trusted our neighbors. We could do different things. And we didn't worry so much. We took people for their word. There was no signing contracts. Someone said they were going to do something, they were going to do something. So trust was a big part of it. So when we're talking to most of these groups, and I deal with younger people as well, because they're on the other extreme. They'll give a lot of information out because that's where they were raised. They're used to sharing a lot of stuff. Where senior citizens, not so much sharing much stuff, but they're used to trusting the people saying what they're doing. So scams are big. So if we go to the next slide, it tells you how big the scams actually are. Right now, how big's the problem? Over $10 billion we've lost in fraud and scams. So that's 14% increase over the prior year, which is about 8.3 billion or 8.8 billion. And the year before that was 5.3 billion. So we've almost doubled the amount we've lost in the last 2 years. So some of that had to be was because of lack of reporting. I think so. We're getting people to report more fraud, so that number's higher. So the past numbers may have been a little bit higher, but we've lost a lot of money. So we're not getting really good at this. And the technology that the scammers have gotten even better, and they've utilized it more so than we have on the security side. So 27% of us will fall victims to a scam. That's over one in four, right? So it's not uncommon to run into people that have been scammed. I'm not saying that they lost their life savings, but most of us have bought something and gotten something that wasn't the same, or we bought something and it never came, right? We've gotten a scam where they took our money, or we've fallen for one of those that looks really too good to be true, and I wanted that pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses for $20, and you're not getting the Ray-Ban sunglasses, you're getting something much cheaper. So it happens. So it's a big problem, and it's a problem we're trying to address. The good news is, if you go to the next slide, senior citizens aren't necessarily number one in terms of losing the most money. So we've seen a trend over the last couple of years. 18 to 24-year-olds are actually losing more per average. So where they're losing $155 per scam, where seniors are now at $109, putting the overall average about $100. So we're losing less as a whole, and senior citizens are actually losing less. Where we're seeing the uptick are really the younger people. And a lot of that has to do with online usage, and I'll get into it in a little bit. But online's where over 30% of the scams are happening, and that's where primarily the younger folks live and breathe, right? Social media, fake websites, and so on. So you'll see a lot more of the scams happening online. Not that our senior citizens are not online, they are, and we want to encourage them to continue to be online because it's helpful to stimulate the mind, right? It's kind of like a mind game where they can do different things, they can socialize, and our research showed that more socialization helps longer living. The more we encourage that, the better, but we also have to show them that we want them to be careful doing that. So if you go to the next slide, it shows you a one-pager on our scam tracker. I don't know how many people are familiar with this. It's been on our site probably for 15, 16 years. We upgraded it last year. And we actually were voted the best scam fighting tool by Global Anti-Scam Alliance, which is what, I guess in the scam world, it's pretty big. But it's a tool, nothing more. It's free. It's on our site. What makes it different than in the past is we've aligned with a lot of big name corporations, Amazon, Capital One, PayPal, Zelle. These are very well-known organizations, and they partner with us because they've lost a lot of money, right? So anyone knows that Capital One's a credit card company. You have fraud protection on your credit card. So if something happens, they assume the responsibility and they pay for that. So it costs them a lot of money. So they want to encourage people to use our tool as well. And again, it's only a tool, but there's a lot of things that we can do with it to help. The overall goal in all of this is education, is to help people. And what I call red flags, what we call red flags. So raises like the hair in the back of your neck goes up saying, that just doesn't sound right. So the more we can do that, the less apt we are to be scammed, because we've proven that we're not really good at catching these scammers. It's not a priority for a lot of the law enforcement people. They cross federal lines, they're different countries. So the best course of action we can take is the educational course. So Scam Tracker is a tool. Again, it's just a tool, but allows us to do a lot of things. It allows us to look for scams. So if we got that message, or we got an email, or we got a phone call, we can go on there and we can look at different types of scams to kind of see if that's something it sounds familiar. Yeah, that must be a scam because it looks like it is. We can share it on our social media platforms. We can hear stories and videos from people that have been scammed, telling them about their stories. So we can sympathize that this happens to a lot of people, not just people that are not intelligent. I think that's what people think a lot of times is, I won't be scammed. I'm smart enough. I know better. But that's not the case. And there's a few reasons for that. One is stress, right? We don't make good decisions under stress. We multitask. Sometimes we're not paying attention. And the third and the most important is they're very good at what they do. They have tools, and the websites are clean, and the people on the phone sound legitimate, and they actually are, they're not just going after I don't want to say the non-educated, because those are not the ones with the money. The ones with the money are the more educated, the more affluent, and they're tracking and they're trying to get them. Bottom line is, by using the Scam Tracker, if you go to the next slide, we've saved people, 36% of the people said it helped them avoid a scam. 37% visited to see whether they could experience a scam. And the bottom line numbers on the next slide is we saved them over about $25 million we prevented from people from losing. So one more slide. It's okay. You're good. You're doing great. I just sometimes talk fast. So if you want me to slow down, just yell at me, because I do that a lot. I'm passionate about it. I really believe in, trying to stop some of these things, but it's chasing that ongoing battle. But again, 36% of the people, $100 median annual loss. So that's good. That's below where it was before. We're going down. It was 170 to 105, I think, to 100. So we're making progress. We're still being scammed, but the scams are smaller. So how do we reduce that even farther? But again, mentioned earlier why we report scams, right? Education's a really big part of it. 44% of the people, if you go to the next slide, will show wanted to warn victims. So when I first started this, that number was not the highest number. We had 90%, 95% of the people wanted to bring the perpetrator to justice, right? That's changed to only 25% of the people wanting to bring the perpetrator to justice. It's not that we don't want to try to find these people, just know it's very difficult to do. They're behind a screen, they're operating, with different aliases. And again, it's not a priority when you have different types of law enforcement, different things happening. Sometimes it's not a priority to go after. So we really want to educate. And that's true for a lot of different people. We want to avoid losing money and help others avoid losing money. So how can we do that? That's my job, is to help showcase some of these scams and to get people to think that just doesn't sound right. If we can do that, people step back and don't act right away, you're much more likely not to get into to a problem. So what are we doing about it? We're doing a study. We do studies every year. So this year we have, and you could skip together a couple slides. We did about 67,000 reports. So the numbers I have are fairly large. So it's pretty consistent in terms of coming out with clear data. And I spent time on the data because I want to have everyone understand how big this issue is, and then what the types of scams are and what our likelihoods of being scammed are, right? So $100 our median loss, but our overall likelihood of a loss increased to 52%. So once we engage in it with a scammer, almost half the time we're now being scammed because they're good. Again, artificial intelligence, right? We've all heard of it. It helps us get through some customer service issues better, right? Some instances this is a positive. On the scammer side, it's a negative, right? Because now their websites are much cleaner. We usually can easily tell the spelling errors, or we can tell sometimes voice recognition. But now with this technology, they've actually created more opportunity for them to do better scams. So again, there's always good news and bad news. The good news is our monetary loss went down 41%. If you go to the next slide. Bad news again, our susceptibility is up. Percentage of reports that show includes a dollar loss. So again, when we get connected. So one of the themes throughout this presentation is don't get connected, right? Don't pick up the phone. Don't engage in the link that they might send you. Don't download, don't do things just because someone asked you to do it. If we could do that, we're more likely not to be scammed and not put ourselves in a position. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, as it relates directly to seniors, again, seniors lose more money. I mentioned earlier, our trend is that the younger people lose more money. They do per capita, like the 100 per loss, $150 per loss, but seniors have more money, right? They have more things. So if we look at it in that aspect, 60-year-old, 60 plus people accounted for $3.1 billion of loss. So that's a third of all the losses that were reported in scams, right? So they're not losing necessarily a lot of times on the smaller scales, but they're losing on the bigger scale. So we got the government impersonations, right? Medicare, or IRS calling you, there's an issue, I need you to call me back. Those are bigger robocall scams. These are scams that typically seniors are more likely to fall for, and they have more dollar losses than the youth. So again, online shopping, more user-oriented, and I'll go through more of the scams in a second, but these are ones to keep an eye on, right? So if they say I won the lottery, well, you probably didn't, but you were selected to win the lottery. All they need is a legal fee. That doesn't happen. So you don't, again, red flag, you don't have to pay money to get money, even if it's just for lawyer fees, or they don't need to give them their account number or bank account number, routing account number for them to deposit that check. Those aren't things that are normal. Those should raise, again, red flags and say, let me ask someone about this. And they shouldn't be ashamed about it. I always tell everyone, we don't live in a bubble. We can ask someone. We have a neighbor, we have a sibling. If it really sounds good, anything that requires immediate action usually is not good, because that's how they get us. Now, we look at if you go to the next slide, we can look at other things that happen, non-financial impacts, right? We always look at the dollar amounts, but we lose other things. We lose time, right? How much time do we spend going through their emails to figure out which one's legit and which one's not? That's a lot of time. We lose confidence and peace of mind. This is a big one because, they're already challenged. As I went to another presentation earlier today, as we get older, we lose more things than we gain, right? We lose our ability to do certain things. We lose our driver's license sometimes. We lose our ability to be mobile, right? So they're losing a lot of things. We don't want them to lose confidence and peace of mind and judgment of what they do, but scams help do that. So we want to make sure we don't get to that point. Loss of personal information, right? If you ever Google yourself online, there's a lot of information about people online. We want to make sure that personal information like your Medicare numbers, your Social Security numbers, bank account, routing account numbers, all that information, we don't want them to give out. We don't want anyone to give out readily. They should earn that right to be given out. Again, loss of potential earnings for those people who are working, all that has a negative response. And mostly it has a negative response in terms of psyche, right? In terms of how we think and process and how we feel good about ourselves. So overall, not a good thing. So when we're talking about scams, if we go to the next slide, we talk about three things: the exposure, how likely I am to be targeted, right? If I'm a young person, I'm more likely to be targeted online scam than a senior citizen. Susceptibility, odds of losing money when I'm exposed, and then monetary loss. How much do I lose? So those are the kind of things we look at when we look at the different types of scams and we try to educate. Now to the good stuff are the scams, right? When we look at what are the types of scams out there, and these change on a regular basis, right? We could have, when the Ukraine war hit, charity scams went went way high because people didn't know. They thought they were giving to either the Ukraine, the Palestinians, and Israelis. I can't pronounce it, but that was another one. So all these scams are topical based on what's happening in the environment, right? Political scams will start rising to give to certain PACs. So these will change, but overall, we look at them on an annual basis, and some things remain consistent, some don't. But the number one, which kind of surprised me, especially because and I'll show you in a couple of minutes, it goes through all age groups, is investing in cryptocurrency. I've yet to find anyone in any of the people presenting groups I've done that own cryptocurrency. Not saying scammers use it in different ways, right? Number two, employment, online purchase. Number three, which dropped. So if you see the red parentheses, those are where they were last year. Home improvement, romance, advanced free loans, fishing, which is always up there. Credit repair, tech support, and travel round out the top 10. So, but crypto and investment took the top place. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Not too much, but enough to be dangerous, right? So if you go to the next slide, cryptocurrency is number one, mainly because it counts for a big dollar amount, right? $300, $800 your average cryptocurrency loss. And you go, who owns cryptocurrency, right? So scammers have a couple different ways which they can use this scam. One is they'll get you to invest in it, right? Market might be slipping a little bit. They reach out, you want to make more money than the marketplace. You want low risk, high reward. Those don't go together. But those people living right on the edge are tempted sometimes to making money. So they'll invest in cryptocurrency when they don't know enough about it, and they'll lose money. So again, not really high for the 65 plus on that scheme, but there's also another way. So a lot of people are familiar with the gift card scams, right? Where they'll ask you to go buy a bunch of gift cards to pay for certain products, or your electricity might be turned off. I need you to go buy gift cards, different denominations. They do that because once you give them the numbers, those gift cards now are non-traceable, and they have those gift card inventories. People are catching on to that, right? That should send up a red flag again. Why do I need to pay anything in gift cards? Well, cryptocurrency now, they'll ask for people to pay in cryptocurrency. And if you're like you and me, probably like, I don't have it. Well, they'll send you a QR code, and you take that QR code to a bank ATM, which there's hundreds of them in the greater Akron area. And they'll transfer money out of your bank account right to the cryptocurrency, the scammers' wallets. So you don't need to have cryptocurrency to utilize this scam. So people think it's legitimate. So together, those two kind of form the number one investment big scams out there. But again, unfortunately, these hit a lot of those people that don't have a lot of money, or that want to get out of debt, that want that investment to get rich quick. And again, it does, even though it's highest for 45 plus, 45, 25, 54, it does hit the older age group as well. So something to be aware of. Anytime you get asked to pay for things outside of normal payment methods, should be like an aha moment. This doesn't sound right. Now, if you go to the next slide, I'm not going to spend too much time on employment because most of these seniors are retired, right? This does have a volunteer application to it. It's moved up to number two, employment, mainly because a lot of boards now are posting, fake jobs, remote working jobs. People want to be remote now. We got used to it during the pandemic. People like it. Employers, it seems to work for them. So there's a lot of fake jobs out there, work at home. They're getting information. So what happens when you apply? You have to give your social security number, your address, your phone number, or you buy stuff at predetermined retailers that they determine that you need, and they'll reimburse you. They don't reimburse you, or they give you a cashier's check that's no good. You cash it, it gives them access to your bank account. That's on the employment side. Again, it does happen some on the volunteer side, where I need to buy certain things, office equipment, or if I'm in medical, I might need scrubs to volunteer at a hospital. I will buy those things and say they're getting reimbursed, and I won't. They'll shop at a certain spot. So again, it happens. I mention it. because it is number two. But the biggest one, if you go to number three, is obviously the online scams. 42%, almost half the amount of scams happen online. That's up from 33%. So 82% lose money. So again, it might not be a huge amount of money, but we've all been online. Almost every presentation I've given, there's always 2 or 3 people though that don't have computers, that don't go online, that will not shop online. I'm like, well, good. But then again, you're writing checks, right? And check fraud's on the rise, and online banking is much more safe. So I'll just mention that. But we want to make sure we're safe. And I'll get back to it. I wanted to skip over it because I'm going to show some examples. But if you go to the next slide, a big one that refers to this age group is called romance scams. And it has a lot of it. It has to do with romance, but it also doesn't have to do with romance. It's really relationship oriented. It's anything we can build a relationship, why they start to build trust. And the more trust they have with this individual, the more money we tend to lose. They feel comfortable. It happens in book clubs, religious groups. Saw it in the pandemic with pets, right? Baby formula shortages. Those people develop a relationship because they want the baby formula. They send a deposit money. Yesterday in the Akron Beacon Journal, there was monkey. You can adopt a monkey. People were sending in deposits. Thought that was a breed. Was doing the right thing. That was all considered relationship-oriented scams, and they have big losses. Ohio is number 5 in terms of losses, so we're not good, right? We're trusting. We do things we're not supposed to do in terms of, and there's some big ones. So according to this slide, $200,000 for one person, $11,000 for another person. These aren't small losses. I like you. I want to see you. My kids are sick. My money's tied up in the market. These are common phrases that we hear. But anytime you can't talk to the person, they're asking for money, you don't really know them that well. Again, should saying up that this doesn't sound right. Here's one that want to start a business. I think it's a great opportunity for you. We've developed this relationship. I like you so much. And seniors get caught up in this because, again, loneliness drives a lot of our decisions. And we're not we're social creatures. We like interaction, and unfortunately, the older we get, the less of a friend group we have, and we reach out. So again, it's not a great scenario, but anyone caring for this group, and we've had people that know they've been scammed that still think the person's good on the other end and still communicate with them, and we have to kind of try to keep telling them it's not. I had one person say, but I really want to help them. Their kids are sick. I'm like, their kids aren't sick. They don't have kids. It's totally not who you think it is, but they get emotionally involved in it. And that's what happens. But it sounds ridiculous, right? When we're talking about it out loud, it just sounds kind of funny. Like doesn't seem right. But when they're in the heat of the moment, they're going through the process. They're thinking exactly it's another person on the line. So we have to make sure we think that way too. And we don't yell at them and say, you're stupid. That's not right. It's got to be a softer approach to it, but it's a big deal and we should be on the aware from it. But going forward to the next slide, kind of shows you some online scam examples. And I've yet to have anyone not have any of these examples. For example, the Amazon one where you say there's a problem with your Amazon account. A lot of these are they've circulated, so they come up with new ones. But there's a problem with your Instagram account, right? Someone's trying to log in. You need to click on this link and put in information. This is all gathering information. The more you interact, the more information you're giving. And as it relates to Amazon, you're giving them your username and password, which then has credit cards attached to it. So we don't want to fall for those things. Congratulations, you were expected to receive an Amazon gift card, right? Because you purchased something. You claim the prize, you click on it. What do they have? They're going to have your phone number. You're going to either have an address, or you're going to have to give them information. So information is power. And the more information you give them, the more you lead yourself up to identity fraud. And you also don't safeguard the privacy of others. So you can open up your Facebook account, for example, for other people without knowing it. Get the Facebook friend request for someone you already have a friend of. You click on it, it's now releasing that information, opening up to the scammer. So we want to just have these tips so that anytime we get approached by it, we want to think twice and not act. So Amazon will not email you, IRS, Medicare, These are all people that will not email you, but we tend to jump on them because they're impersonated companies, right? They're companies or brands that we associate with this trust. And that's usually what happens. There's US Postal Service, right? We get an email saying there's US Postal Service is having a problem delivering to your address. Can you verify it? Well, US Postal Service should probably know where you are. We don't need to verify that because now you're giving that information out. Sounds innocent, but we do it all the time without thinking. So we need to take a step back. You know, if you go to the next slide, some of the similar ones, Netflix, update your current billing information, right? PayPal, you know, there's a problem with the PayPal account. These are ones I got. I don't have a PayPal account, so it's easy to know. National Security Department kind of scares you, right? There is no National Security Department, and they wouldn't email me if they were, right? So we don't want to react to these things. So again, another red flag of ours is do not click on links unless you're absolutely sure you know where they come from and you know where they go. You shouldn't answer the phone call, right, from people like this that call you from a number that you don't know where it's coming from because you don't know who it is. And the more we interact, as I mentioned a couple screens back, almost half the time when we interact with someone, we get scammed, we lose. So we just don't want to interact with them. So I always take the case, if someone really wants my money or I owe them money, they're going to try more than once. So if I get an email 2 or 3 times, you know, a good example of it is when First Energy, right? They issue those refunds. I don't know if you're lucky enough to get one, but they did gift cards, which is a mistake. But no, almost over half the people did not catch those gift cards because they thought they were scams, right? I'm not opening that, which is good. We got the in, but after I got it 2 or 3 times, it made me think a little bit. Maybe this is legitimate. Let me check into it. Just causing a lot of pain. But so again, our friend is time. So if we can step back and we can not get them to panic, because time is our friend, we're going to make better choices. Hope that makes sense. Go to the next line. There's a few more examples. We've seen these that pop up. These happen a lot. And these are causing a lot of, I don't know if anyone seen the movie Beekeeper, which is out recently with Jason Statham. It's a fun movie to watch, but it's all about text scam. Is, you know, one of his closest people gets scammed, and I'm not going to give away the story, but one of these viruses, one of these pop-ups came up. There's a problem with your computer. Click here, and a nice person calls on the phone and walks you through the issue and gets access to your computer. And then all of a sudden, they give them access to the computer, and now they have access to passwords. They have access to your usernames. They can input malware. So we don't want people to engage in these, especially our senior citizens that might not be as tech savvy. Oh my God, I have a problem. And the big number on here is really easy to call, and they're comfortable calling it on the phone, and they can call on the phone. The people are very nice and they can help you through this problem. Well, great. I need help with this problem because I'm not as computer literate. I'm going to help you can help me do this. It gives way more problems than it can. So how to get away from these examples, or we want to clean out our computers. So if you work with seniors and they use a lot of computers, have them delete their history once in a while, clear their browsers. It'll make their computer run faster, and it'll stop a lot of these from happening. And unplug the computer, you know, restart it. A lot of these people, us included, right? We don't restart our computers. By doing that, uploads those security protocols, right? If you're an Apple person, I don't get little, especially on my phone, you know, it's a software update. Those software updates have security updates and patches, because they're constantly being bombarded in terms of scammers, and they're constantly updating security protocols. No different with your computer. So we want to make sure we do that. If you're within a big organization, they force things out. They make you do that a lot of times, because every time you restart your computer, if you're on a network, they can put safety protocols on there. But if you're at home, that doesn't really work. So shutting it down, you know, if you get an alert saying it's a security protocol, be cautious, but we want to update our security stuff. Hope that makes sense. Other ones we're seeing a lot of, we're seeing lottery scams. Again, a lot of these follow trends. So if our market right now is good, so we're not seeing as many lottery scams because people are doing well investing in the marketplace. Market types to go down. Might be losing some of my portfolio. I need ways to make money fast. That's where cryptocurrency comes in, and that's where some of these people fall for, right? I won the lottery. Congratulations, your email was selected. Your email will never be selected. You can't win the lottery if you don't play. People ask you to all I need is a small deposit to pay for legal fees, or remember Publishers Clearinghouse. So all I need is some dollars to come out and bring you that big check and the balloons. But bottom line is, if you want anything, you don't need to pay for anything to win it. So if you truly want it, give me the money. You don't need all my financial information to do so. But we're seeing an uptick. So we see more and more. And a lot of these are happening on the phone now. You've seen a trend. They're moving off the computer and they're moving into social media, right? Instead of email, instead of websites. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But so a lot of people in general, obviously carry their phones. 87% of people have smartphones now. So that is our computer, and that's where they're finding us. But go to the next slide. I'm not going to spend any time on the employment. But again, some things to look for: fake jobs, email offers that you don't really expect, bogus jobs. All those shouldn't happen to our senior people. But again, volunteer opportunities that look too good to be true. I say look good, too good, but or ask you to pay for things or buy things up front, should be aware of, but not too much at this group to worry about. Now, if you look at the next slide, you look at the riskiest scams by age, which surprised me again. Investment cryptocurrency is number one with 65 plus. So it's not typically, if I was a caregiver and I do a lot of these presentations, I wouldn't expect that to be as high, but it is. So we have to be unaware. Okay, someone out there is being taken from investment in cryptocurrency scam, so we should be aware of it. Someone asks you, have you heard of cryptocurrency? Should kind of say why. Someone approached you for buying something in cryptocurrency or investing in it. Tell me more, right? Because now we know it's up there. Again, romance number two, home improvement number three. Those people driving by, hey, I just have extra material. I know it's shingles out on your roof. I can fix that for you. All I need is a deposit, and you never see your money again. But those are big scams. Paying everything up front. I'll give you a discount if you pay me up front. People fall for that. Sometimes it's legitimate, sometimes it's not. But when in doubt, wait till the job is done. Even if it costs you a little bit more money, you want to make sure it's done. So home improvement scams are big because a lot of us don't know, and I fall victim of these. I don't know how to do everything around the house. I have an old house. I either don't know how to do it or I don't really want to do it. And I don't really go in price to do it. So you have to put some trust in people, but I'm not trusting enough to give you the whole value up front. I want to do multiple quotes. I want to have different people involved. If someone's coming over to my house and I don't feel safe, I want to have someone with me, right? You have to make an appointment. Come back when you have an appointment. I don't want to have someone else here. I want to know someone else knows that someone's here. We've had some people have their driveways done because they said no, but no one was there, and they went ahead and did it, and then expected to pay for the money. So we've had people, which sounds odd, but it happens. So on to the next slide again. When you look at reporting scams, when you look at the ages 18, 24%, again, highest median loss, not going to go too far, but 44.9% of 65 plus are susceptibility. So it's a lower susceptibility, which is good. Exposure is relatively low. So we're doing okay. And if we go to the next slide, I just throw this on there because we look by gender, right? Now, if you look at males looks $178 on average compared to $95 for females, right? So we're not good. Females are much better than we are in terms of not losing as much money. Non-binary, on the other hand, is $187. But the reason why is different scams have different dollar losses. So investment cryptocurrency, I guess, is more male driven. So if we're looking after more males, we should be on the lookout of, rather than employment or online purchases, it might be more investment driven. Employment, home improvement, fishing, right? All those are just curious to me, but we spend a lot of time. We lose more on different things. Male and female are different. Now we will look at where we engage with people. So if you go to the next slide, mentioned earlier, we're moving on to our phone, right? And what do we do more on our phone? Is we do social media. Three main contacts now we're seeing: social media, websites, and email. Social media engagement, 63% increase over 2023, right? So we're seeing that is where scammers are, because that's where we are. And we do that across different platforms, right? We do it on a computer, we do it on a phone, we do it on a tabloid. We can even do it on Apple TV, whatever it is. We're on. Social media is where we're driven in terms of the scam. So we have to be careful because they're finding us where we are. Facebook marketplace, for example, is a treasure trove for scammers. I don't know how many people use it in terms of the senior audience. I have run into people that use it very successfully. It's not a bad platform. It's just not policed as much, right? It's unrestricted. Um, you can buy and sell on there without giving a lot of information. It's very low cost of entry, but it's also very risky, right? There's a lot of fake marketplaces out there. We're seeing a lot of fake Airbnbs, people being taken tickets for cultural events. So there's a lot of things happening on our social media platforms at all age groups. So we should just have to keep a heads up. And then we look at the loss by person, which kind of goes to the social media driven. More we are related, or more I say interrelated, the more we're intertwined with someone, the more we're going to lose. So the more trust we have in someone, the more relationship we have. In person, $1,400. We don't see a lot of in-person scams. It's very low on the rate. It's up there near postal responses, which is low, but that has the largest dollar amount, right? Because we get trust build quickly. It's like, why is the romance scam high, right? It's because we're building trust. That's the highest amount of scams we have. So internet messaging, when you get that internet, you get that Instagram, or you get that messenger message from someone you know out of your Facebook or your contact list, all of a sudden it sounds like it's out of the blue. You hear from an old friend, and then you start conversing, and it just doesn't sound right. They're asking for something. Have you heard of this? So they're building that relationship quickly, and eventually they'll get to the ask. That happens when you've been infiltrated, right? Your Facebook has been compromised. But it's anyway, it says relationships. Text message, right? Is this so and so? No, it's not. Well, you sound nice. Who are you? Well, they have your phone number. Now they're asking for your name. They're trying to develop some type of connection. Eventually, they're going to ask for things, because you'll give more, you'll lose more when you have that relationship. So text message, phone call, internet messaging, it goes on a sliding scale, again, all the way down to postal mail, which is $34. People don't lose a lot in postal mail, right? Goes to those stamps or those quarters, those coins. We don't see a lot of that. Scammers don't like it because it's expensive, right? We have to pay for those things. So we should be on the lookout. Not that we see a lot of in person, but we see the electricity companies, or the fake ones. Do you know who your electricity provider is? I don't. But I can save you a lot of money if you change to ours, or Dish TVs, those fake Dish TV companies. Do you have cable? Are you happy with it? I could save you money. All I need is a deposit. Those happen door to door, but again, relatively low happening, but it happens. Now, if you look at the payment methods, so this goes to my other red flags of, I shouldn't be asked to pay for things with abnormal payment methods. So credit card's still number one, right? People understand I can pay for almost everything with a credit card, which is true. So 41% of the people scam use a credit card. Well, that's good, because you have fraud protection, and the loss is only $65. Scammers don't like credit cards, right? They have to process it. They have to open, close accounts. They have to get a credit card, to be able to put that in a bank account, you have to have identity. So it's not as easy to transact. Now, if you look at, same with the bank card. Now, when you start looking at online payment systems, such as cryptocurrency, again, 3,300. Look at the wire transfers, 8,000. Checks, cash. These are all higher dollar amounts because they're much more liquid, right? Anyone asks you to wire money, should rain up a real red flag. Why do I need to wire you money? 8,000. I mean, that's bigger dollars, and once it's gone, it's gone. Now, banks know this, so there's usually some checks and balances out there. They'll push, they'll ask a lot of questions. They usually you have to go through a couple different steps to wire someone money, but it's really easy to do, and it's quickly to do. It's why they use gift cards a lot, right? Because it's quick, easy. They can easily non-identifiable money orders, wire fraud. Again, checks we're seeing more fraud with, because they can erase the checks. They can rewrite them. There are new pens out there that make it not capable for doing that. I had one senior citizen center yesterday. I was doing a presentation at. She asked if you got her check rewritten. It happens. Urge our folks and the people we're working with, we should check our accounts regularly. I'm not saying every hour, should have it on a ticker screen, but look at your statements. Be comfortable going online and looking at your statements, or try to get them online. If you don't, at least look at the statement. Make sure there's no fraudulent charges on there, because scammers will put charges. Or if your credit card's been compromised, it's no longer, I'm going to go to Walmart, a liquor store, and get gas. So it's caught real quick. they'll sneak different charges on there because if you don't check them, they're recurring, right? They just keep going. So we urge people to check their accounts, set up two-step notification if you know what that is. So if you do use your card, it sends you an alert what you spent, or you're going to get online, it has different passwords. They're getting comfortable using that. A lot of senior citizens I talk to, or they know about it. They're okay with it. They know to use the chip cards now. Most cards don't even have the stripes on them anymore. That avoids skimmers, what they call them, because they're encrypted. There's no skimming involved. There's no swiping. They're much more secure. So online banking is much more reliable and secure than people think it is. It's actually more secure than writing a check, sending it in the mail. So we want to try to encourage that and be comfortable with it, because you're losing less and less money on doing that. So when you look at means of contact, go to the next slide. Again, 68% are online, 81% have a loss. Phone is 25%. So between the phone and online mediums, that's where most of your scams are happening. So I always tell, do not answer your phone unless you know who's calling, right? We can't trust the caller ID. We can't say that it just has the same area code. They've infiltrated and they've hacked those systems. Put your names, or have someone help you put names in a contact list. So when it pops up on your phone, it has a name attached to it. Then you know it's legitimate. If it doesn't, they can leave a message. They get uncomfortable doing that sometimes. They want to talk and they want to be able to answer the phone. So, but 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to get to the right person. There's a scammer on the other end of the line, or someone trying to sell you something. And again, the more interaction we have, the more likely we are to get scammed. So we try to get them not to answer the phone. It's okay. If it's really important, they'll leave a message. Even the doctor's offices now understand that. And you can get back in touch with the doctor. Now, if I call the office, doctor left me a message, they can track that doctor down, or that information can be relevant in related different ways. So it's not dire that we stand by the phone. So we want to make sure that we portray that. And if we go to the last slide, or the next, I think it's the next to last slide or so, we look at impersonated companies. Again, these are ones that should come across that if you get an email from them, there's a likelihood that it's not real, right? United States Postal Service. I think I mentioned one earlier. We're having trouble delivering your package. Can you verify your address? That's a fraudulent one where you're looking. Sometimes it needs extra postage. So we have a package to be delivered to you. They had insufficient postage. Would you like to pay for that postage and get it delivered? Put in your credit card information, right? So now you're paying for a package you don't know if you're going to receive, that you don't even know you have. Those are not real. So don't. Same with Amazon. There's a problem with your Amazon account. Publishers Clearinghouse, we kind of got on with. Geek Squad, Norton. All these are companies we trust and we've heard of. So the scammers use it in fraudulent forms, right? Most of these will not email us. Better Business Bureau is even on there. I can help improve your credit scores. I can help, raise your business, A+ rating or B+ to an A+. People fall for these things. Bed Bath & Beyond was one that was confused lately because they bought by I forgot the retailer was, but anyway, they're online only now and they were bought by someone else, and people are getting confused because they're getting emails from. But if you don't really know where the email is coming from, don't engage with it. Go outside, go to the website if you really think it is, search for the actual websites. But again, don't hit the links that are in there. Now, if you go to the next slide, we talk about what makes us fall for scams, right? Stress is a big one. Financial stress, lonely, panicking during stressful situations. We don't want to put ourselves or others into these situations because we don't react very well. Financial distress is a big one, right? I'm tired. I'm going paycheck to paycheck. The market's not doing well. I'm struggling, and all of a sudden I get an email. I won lottery. I'm likely to click on it because I want to get out of that situation. And scammers know that, right? They have a lot of information on us. So we want to try to avoid those things. So obviously we can't avoid financial stress sometimes, but we want to isolate it and we don't want to make things worse. So feel lonely, right? That's how romance scams happen. Online is a great tool. We can meet a lot of people, a lot of different groups. We can communicate to our families via FaceTime and social media platforms. So it's great to be out there and not be lonely. We just have to know that there's a lot of people out there that have bad intentions, that are smart, that can target us and get us to a lot of different ways. And we don't want to panic, right? That's how a lot of we make bad decisions. We want to slow down. Even if we think we've been scammed, we want to lock up our accounts. I think I was compromised. I want to call my bank. I want to call my credit cards. I want to call one of the or two of the credit bureaus and put a lock on my credit, on my account. Those should be the steps, right? What I lost, I lost. I can't get it back, or I have a hard time getting it back, but I want to prevent it. I want to make sure I can put things in perspective. Doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me, I made a bad decision, or I wasn't paying attention. How can I stop making further decisions bad, right? Worse is we had someone give a scammer money and then they continue to give them money, right? I won lottery. Well, you need a little bit more money. I need a little bit more money. And they just keep going and going and going. So we don't want to get down that rabbit hole. So it's okay. We don't want to say you're a bad person for being scammed. Let's make it right. Let's put the stop to the process. Here are things we need to do. Let's make sure the finances are set. Your credit is in, your identity is now locked down. We call the police if necessary. If we ever have a problem, you can always call our offices. We maintain lists of a lot of different numbers, attorney generals, federal trade commissions. We can help navigate based on the crime or lack of a crime or the worry or the scam. Again, we have our live resources. So I encourage people. We have callers that answer the phone all day long and they say, have you heard this before? Have you heard of this company? A lot of times they will have heard of it and say, yes, that's a scam. So they have someone they can fall back on. But again, I fall back on, don't feel like you can't talk to someone. You're not in a bubble. You have a neighbor, you have a peer, you can ask those things. So next slide, I think is my final slide before the video you can't play, which is not a big deal. We want to do a few different things. We want to avoid making quick purchases while browsing social media, right? If you've been on social media at any given time, there's good and bads, right? One, if you search for anything, you'll get ads, right? It's retargeting. You'll get a lot of ads for those things you search for. Some of those are good, right? You want to click on them. Some of them are not good. We click on them, right? We're not supposed to click on things we don't really know. We buy things impulsively. Sometimes we think they're what we think they are. Sometimes we're not. So we want to do a little bit of research. We don't want to be, we want to be cautious with persons we meet online, right? Anyone comes out of the blue, even if it sounds like it's someone you know. We've had a lot of people hack their Facebook page and they think they're talking to a Facebook friend and they're not. We want to be careful because the more relationships they have with someone, the likelihood that if someone asks for money, they're going to give it to them, right? Because they have a relationship. We don't want to click on links, open attachments. That should be a no-no. Even if you're almost sure I know where they're coming from, just take a couple seconds to go outside and type the Amazon address in there and look at my Amazon account. And then lastly, don't believe everything you see or read, right? Don't panic when something's gloom or doom, or believe it's all rosy, that this is great. I'm going to get that deal and I'm going to buy it now. I'm going to give them what I'm going to pay for it all up front because I get a better deal and then I just lose my money. So, and ultimately, as I say, as the video, my PSA shows that you're going to say, if you have been scammed, there's a recovery plan, right? You can call our offices. You can look at Scam Tracker, but it's not the end of the world. And I say that because in rare instances, we've had people commit suicide because they've been scammed. They felt embarrassed, or they've lost more money because they didn't want to report it. Right. So they felt like they had to continue to give money because they felt they were being, where do you go? The word now. They held at gunpoint, basically, ransomed. You don't feel that way because you're human. We've all been in those positions and we have to, it doesn't make you any worse of a person. So there is a plan. But again, you have to ask and talk to people. But hopefully I didn't ramble too long, but I gave you some tips and topics. What we're seeing in terms of Better Business Bureau and our scam prevention efforts. But again, if you ever have a need, again, I do presentations at a lot of different senior care facilities. If you want more in-depth, I can do that. If you have questions, please feel free to call our offices. There is a website. I think at one of these slides, the slide with the video on it might have it down below. You can read the marketplace. A ton of information out there, that BBB Marketplace Trust. Ton of information. If you really have nothing better to do and you want to look at a lot of information and statistics about different scams, different places, it has a lot of that stuff. Feel free to, it's all free. It's all free to use however you feel, but I appreciate your time and having me. Again, if you need me, let me know. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.